Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again to kick the week off with the deck. I just want to do a little announcement. These decks this week and probably next week are going to be recorded a couple of weeks in advance. I mean, this is coming out the Monday after the pre-release weekend, so I hope everyone had a lovely pre-release, but this has been recorded a couple of weeks, well, a week and a bit before the pre-releases. The reason for this is at some stage over the next couple of weeks I'll be moving house, so I'm trying to get ahead of all the videos so I can keep the YouTube channel going. There will be a sudden video appear on the day I move saying about no streams for a little while, so keep your eyes open for that. But there should be YouTube videos running all the time. So enough of the public service announcement. Let's talk about today's deck, shall we? Which is a lot more important. Which is Sab-Sunen Luxa Embodied. 3 green and blue for a 6/6 legendary god. Yep, we like gods. Gods are always fun to play with. This one's got reach, trample, and indestructible. So nice set of stats. Stop the things in the air and just pound on the ground if we need to. But Sab-Sunen can't attack or block unless it has an even number of counters on it. And at the beginning of your main phase, put a +1/+1 counter on Sab-Sunen. Then, if it has an odd number of counters on it, draw 2 cards. Right, so what we need to do, well, in my mind, what I've decided to do, is try and manipulate how I get +1/+1 counters on here. Now, this means I'm not playing some of the usual +1/+1 counter cards you expect, like hardened scales. They're not in this deck today. But I've included some other ones where I can put counters on, so maybe I can get the 2 card draws and then get an additional +1/+1 counter so I can attack. Leave Sab-Sunen out. Beginning my next turn, another +1/+1 counter, so draw the 2 cards to have an odd one, then put another counter on so I can attack. Yeah, that seems like a really good plan to me, and that's what this deck is all trying to do today. So here we go, let's show you what it looks like. So at the beginning, because we're in green, we have a significant amount of ramp creatures in play, kicking off with Birds of Paradise, and then our wonderful halfling from Lord of the Rings, and all 3 of the green elves. We know what they do. I'm not going to go into them. To make sure we can chuck around some +1/+1 counters, we've got Bristle Bill, the Spine Sower. This is just a nice way to have a landfall. Maybe draw the 2 cards off Sab, got an odd number on it, play a land, got an even number on it, win for the attack, which is good. Fanatic of Ronas is also here as a little bit of ramp, but in this deck, because Sab comes in at 6 mana, you automatically can tap for 4 without having to internalize the Fanatic, so quite an easy inclusion for me today. Cura's Follower, just so we can untap another target permanent. Yep, okay, or a land if we need to, a push. Kodama of the West Tree, we might as well have this in place so we can hit when we hit with our modified creatures, because it won't just be Sab that has counters on them. We're going to get some basic lands. I think I'm running 5 of each, I think maybe 6 of each in this deck. We'll get there in a second. So we'll still be able to sort of search out our land and get our landfall on the go. Mossborn Hydra is a bit of a no-brainer. Comes into play with a +1/+1 counter on it, and then landfalls means we double this. We can put extra +1/+1 counters on here and get Mossborn Hydra really big, really quickly, and just hope we don't run into any first strike death-touching creatures. Honorary Tumblewag is also coming back in from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Beginning of combat on our turn, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. This may help us get Sab from an odd number to an even number so we can attack with them, or we just put it somewhere else and not touch Sab because Sab's already got an even number of counters on it. Just make sure you know what you're doing with your triggers. Same with Peer, Imaginative Rascal. If 1 or more counters will be put on a permanent your team controls, that many counters plus 1 of each of those kinds of counters are put on that permanent instead. Now this is the only doubler I've got in here. Whether it's going to survive or not, I don't know. I really want to make sure that I don't have these kind of effects, because once I start doubling counters, it gets complicated trying to get things adapted. So, but for the moment, Peer and the Imaginative Rascal is in. It may be cut at some stage. Shapers of Nature does help us around it though, because we can actually pay 3 mana, remove a +1/+1 counter to draw a card, which isn't the worst thing in the world for this deck. And so, yeah, if you've got both these in play, then it doesn't really matter if you're doubling up on the counters, so it works. Voron of the Whole Clade is even nicer. You just get to double up. You get to put an extra counter of those types on there. So it's another way of getting out of your, oh, I'm stuck on odd numbers of counters on Sab. We can go this way and get even numbers on to attack with. Fathom Mage, a bit of a no-brainer. Evolve, +1/+1 counters. Let's go. Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy is also here, just so we can do the investigation and get the additional land play. And then we're not really going to destroy our artifacts, but we can take out the artifacts that are annoying us on our parent side, because Vigilance and Flying, and maybe some +1/+1 counters going on Kellen does give us a bit of a threat in the air quite quickly. Kian, the Corrupted Memory, is just nice because of the whole let's have a look and see how whenever you draw a card you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Kian, and you build up quite quickly, so yay. Toothy, the Imaginary Friend, whenever you draw a card you get to put a +1/+1 counter on here, and when Toothy leaves you get to draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on Toothy. Had to have the other half in. Toothy I put in on his own originally. I thought, yeah. Hence why we've got Pier in the deck as well. If you're going to have one, you might as well have the other partner and get on with it, I think. Simone, the Paradox Sculptor, comes in from Foundations. +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures you control. So that, again, helps you get off the... I've got an odd number on Sab. I need to get an even number there. And then we can double up. That's fine. Just remember, if you can double up the counters if you've got... an even number, because then you can still attack with Sab. It's just when you've got an odd number or you're putting an extra counter on, it gets a little bit more complicated. But yeah, I'm talking to the converted here, I hope. Anyway, Overlord of the Flood Pits for card draw and discard. Overlord of the Hauntwoods, just to get us an extra that lovely everywhere land. Railway Brawlers, just fun. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. So with this in play, Sab-Sunen comes in as a 12/12. Yeah, okay then, I'm happy with that. Seedborn Muse just gives a way to untap everything each turn. Quilled Great Worm, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage during your turn, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. And then we can bring the Great Worm back from the graveyard, as you know, by removing 6 counters from among creatures we control, in addition to paying its other costs. So 6 counters and 6 mana gets it back from the graveyard unless it's been exiled. Final card, Dread Linhorn. I wanted a way of having something that could get through small annoying things. This does it quite nicely. A couple of +1/+1 counters and a hexproof until the end of the turn can actually save Sab occasion. That's one of the other reasons. But it can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or less. So, you know, nice thing. No trample, but it does mean people have got to think about holding their the big stuff back to block this one, because otherwise, if they've got a small army, it will just punch through and do them in. Jing Yanga, Wild Crafter, is also in as well to get those, chuck those +1/+1 counters around onto Sab. And then we have a whole load of spells to help us out. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting. We have some of the things you would expect to see in a blue-green deck, like Brainstorm, Preordain, Simmering Visions. But after that, we have Gift of the Viper, +1/+1 counter on a creature, Reach, Death Touch, all the rest of it, and untap it. So another way of getting the counter on Sab to make sure we can attack with them, because we are kind of relying on MTGO. We'll be relying on getting through with the commander damage to do this, to win this game, so bear that in mind. Longstalk Roll, we can put a +1 on, choose target creature you control and a target creature you don't control, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature if the gift was promised, and then those creatures fight each other. Okay, Sab's indestructible. Fighting's not an issue for us. We can gift a fish. I'm not worried about a 1/1 fish. Malmit, the Battle Glyph, is also in. That's another one that does the whole choose creature you don't control and creature you do control. If the creature you control enters battle this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then fight. Yep, more fight spells. We like them. Snakeskin Veil, I've talked about these two. Snakeskin's Veil, +1/+1 counter, hexproof until the end of turn. Stony Strength, +1/+1 counter and untap the creature. Ancient Animus, another fight spell, which is really good with Sab because it does put the +1/+1 counter on Sab. Cyclonic Rift to control the board. A little bit around with Farseek and Growth Spiral and some of the other cards coming up. Gaze Gift does the whole +1/+1 counter, or Hexproof, Reach, Trample, basically all the abilities that Sab has got, apart from hexproof, gets added. So yeah, 2 mana for +1/+1 and hexproof. Live with that. Heroic Interventions there. Inscription of Abundance lets us chuck around +1/+1 counters. Hopefully we'll be able to kick this and do the whole lot of them, so gain some life and get something to fight something else. So happy with that. Nature's Law for the ramp. Repulsive Mutation is a fun one. Don't see it that often, but put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, then counter up to 1 target spell unless its controller pays mana equal to the greatest power amongst creatures you control. So a green-blue counter spell with a 6/6 that's probably going to be even bigger by the time you finish casting this. Yeah, okay then. We've got a counter spell in the deck and it's a fun one. Think Twice for a little bit more card draw. 3 visits for the ramp. Expanded Anatomy just for the +1/+1 counters and Vigilance. Felling Blow to do the whole +1/+1 counter and then bite something. This is not a fight, this is a bite, which makes it a little bit more palatable to me. Kodoma's Reach for some more ramp. Search for Tomorrow for some more ramp. Struggle for Skemfar. It's just so we can do the whole +1/+1 of fight and foretell it to get out of our hand. So nice. Incremental Growth. We should have 3 creatures in play. We can chuck around a whole up to 6/1. Well, we will have to chuck around up to 6 +1/+1 counters to do this. So just try not to give anything to your opponent. That's all. Inspiring Refrain for the card draw. And then Season of Gathering. Right at the end, go and get our pawns, get some +1/+1 counters, maybe blow up some enchantments and artifacts. If we're in a pinch, playing 3 pawns, drawing cards equal to the greatest power amongst creatures we control is nice, because basically once Sab's in play, the only way it disappears is if it gets exiled. That's fine. So you're always going to have your 6/6 sitting there, at least. A few artifacts just to help us out. Elixir of Immortality to shuffle everything back in when it goes pear-shaped. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Emerald Medallion, Sapphire Medallion, Swiftfoot Boots to protect Sab a little bit more and give her a haste. And Thought Vessel, just to make sure we've got no maximum hand size. 4 enchantments, again, things you would probably expect. Innkeeper's Talent for the +1/+1 counters within the ward ability. Simic Ascendancy to chuck around a lot of +1/+1 counters, and then hopefully we'll get to a point where we have 20 +1/+1 counters out there somewhere and win the game on our upkeep, so a bit of a backup win condition. Hadana's Climb just chucks +1/+1 counters around at the beginning of combat, and if we can get it flipped over to the Winged Temple of Orzak, we're going to be very, very happy very, very quickly. And then Sylvan Scavenging right at the end. We can just chuck out Raccoon every turn if we need to, if Sab's in play, or a +1/+1 counter. The chances are we'll be chucking out Raccoons off this unless we really need the +1/+1 counter to go somewhere ready for the next turn. So bear that in mind. Lands, nothing fancy. Blue-green lands all the way through. A few let you do card draw like Bonder's Enclave, because we will have a power creature with 4 power or greater a lot of the time, and maybe have 3 mana lying around to draw a card with. The Flood, yeah, 5 of each. I thought we had 5 forests, 5 islands, so that helps with the modified Kodoma. Yeah, and the usual Reliquary Tower, Temple of the False God, Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, and that is it. That's my take on Sab-Sunen. I'm really enjoying it. I did check the spoiler as I recorded this video to see if there's anything else that should be included. I couldn't find anything. But if something comes out that's not here that you think should be included in the deck from the Aftermath, no. Let's try that again. Aetherdrift set. Let me know in the comments down below. Love it if you could give me a subscription here on YouTube. That'd be fantastic. And if you want to see me play Sab, hopefully I'll get streaming. That's very soon if I am moving. I don't know, obviously, if the move video's gone up yet. But, you know, as soon as I get either our stream this week and you can see it played, or you'll have to wait till after I've moved. But we will see what's happening. But for now, thanks for watching. Take care. Link to Twitch. See you soon. Have a good one. Bye.